Hello.
Hi.
We're
Good
back.
to see you.
We're back in that weird in-between time between the holidays and New Year's.
Oh my God. Does
Where I don't know what day it is.
Raise your virtual hand if you're like so ready for Christmas to be over. Okay, good.
I keep my decorations up till New Year's because I like
That's
a little
different
vibe,
though. That's the vibe. The ambiance of Christmas I find really soothing.
Yeah.
The doing of the holiday vacation thing, I just can't anymore. And of course in Colombia it goes on for 5 weeks. So hi.
No, it's chaos and we're here in the middle of it, but it's fine.
Okay, good.
So today we want to talk about fear. Fear's been coming up. I've been having a couple of followers, clients pinging around it. So I've been talking a little bit about how to use your body to make decisions, right? Because please don't ever take us seriously. So
we're professionals. Okay. Try this at home.
Okay. So right, wrong, good, bad. So I get that everyone is so focused on making the right decision that people just go into complete paralyzation. I mean, this is literally what I hear over and over again. 80%.
I just did 3 reels on my thing about this. I'm like,
oh, amazing. See, yeah. Exactly. Okay, it's pinging. So it's like people are struggle more with taking action than taking like the kind of impulsive action. They're more frozen in taking action. And I've been talking about how it's really about us being afraid to get it wrong, and that's what's causing kind of this freeze response. So I've had some folks ask, well, how do I know the difference between when I'm genuinely afraid or my intuition, my awareness is saying, no, this is a no, don't choose this. How do we know? How do we know, Crystal?
Oh my God. Okay. Well, first of all, what I'm about to say is not the popular point of view. Let's preface it.
You're not on the cheerleader squad?
I'm not on the cheerleader squad, no. I'm the nerd in the corner that's like studying all quantum physics. Yeah. So what I learned in Access Consciousness that I then had to take into my own life to see if it was true is that fear is what's called a distractor implant. Now, what the F was that? Regardless of what you call it, it's one of those energies that is literally, that there is no way out of. So, and that's what a distractor implant is. They're energies and choices that there's no way out of. You literally, once you're in them and once you've called it that, you can't, you loop. So like once you tell yourself that you're afraid, how do you get out of that? You're afraid. There's no way out. You can't. Right. So once you tell yourself that you feel guilty, for example, guilt is another one. There's 24 of these things. Guilt is another. Once you say, I feel guilty, there's no way out. You can't not feel guilty because you did do the thing, and you can't fix the thing because you did the thing. And so you're trapped. And so that's really, I think, how Gary Douglas sort of identified or categorized these particular energies, because he's the one that came up with this. We're implanted to believe that they're real, but in truth, there's no way out. And once you just choose around them, they go away. Weird, right? So, I mean, it could be a really short episode.
Yeah, I was going to say, the end. Choose.
So this is, I think this is the bigger conversation is like, are you in the camp where for you, fear needs to be real? Yeah. And I think we could probably break that down. Or are you willing to consider that maybe it isn't real, even though you have a sensation that you've identified as fear, and there is a way around it,
Oof.
Do we want to?
Yeah, okay. So a couple things came up for me in the sense of, first, when you're talking about fear and saying like, it being a distractor, I was like, it's like you are totally disempowered to it. When you say, well, I'm afraid, it's like, well, I'm afraid, so I can't do anything.
Who's going to argue with that?
Who's going to challenge it?
Who's going to challenge that? And, a kid says he's afraid to go to school, and the parent, I watched this when I first got with Andreas and Luna. He kept telling me Luna had massive anxiety. So I got to hang out with Luna, and I'm like, this is not an anxious kid. This is a kid who has learned how to use her feelings to manipulate her parents. And I was like, and so she would go into all this upset, and I would be able to look at her and kind of go, I don't see what you're doing, which is not really the popular conversation because that's uncaring and unfeeling, and I'm supposed to validate.
Cold. Yes.
So I didn't say a lot about it at first, but I really watched her, and I was like, oh no, this kid just knows how to manipulate. As soon as she goes to tears, she gets everything she wants. I'm like, why wouldn't she go to tears, you know? I'm afraid of going to school. I'm afraid of going into my bedroom. Well, she'd be afraid of going into her bedroom, and what she really wanted was to sleep with Daddy. So, you know, like it never, I forget where I was going with that, but like it was there to distract her and him. And it worked. And I think this is the thing that we don't really want to look at, is like, is it working to kind of distract you from the thing you don't really want to choose? Maybe that thing that's like super uncomfortable, super confronting, super going to put you outside of your comfort zone. Because most of the things we're afraid of throw us way outside our comfort zone. And we're like, oh, you know, as all this energy comes up, and then all of a sudden we're terrified. And there is a lot of energy there. But if we didn't call it fear, how much energy would we be getting access to that we could use to create?
Yeah. There's so much there. Oh, where to start? Okay, well, because I'm looking at like kind of from a dysregulation perspective, right? So in the sense of finding your edge, so to speak, with how willing are you to step outside your comfort zone? What is your nervous system edge? But like, what contributes to feeling regulated enough to make the perceived scary choices, right? I mean, a lot of it's going to be, how am I perceiving it? I'm thinking of back to when I wanted to leave my job. I had a lot of fear around not being able to generate income or things like that, right? That was the big fear of why I didn't choose it. But it's like I kept saying that for years, and then it started to feel like a justification.
Well, it was.
Yeah.
That's what fear is. Fear is the justification for not choosing. So, but I think also, and I think you've kind of talked about this before, but let's talk about it again.
Yeah.
When you go to changing your life in that way, there is a lot of energy there. Like, it is uncomfortable. Everything's unknown. Like, once you jump out of your 9 to 5 and you jump into something else, you don't know. It's unknown. So the only thing you have to go on is your sense of the future it will create. Not even the for sure of what it will create, just your sense of like, sometimes it can be, if I don't do this, I'm going to die, so fuck it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be, I know this is going to create something greater and I might die while doing it, but fine. There's always this kind of like fear of dying or something, you know, like this is going to...
Well, we're like unknown phobic.
Yes.
We're literally unknown phobic. Like, I just want to control my reality. And I get that as a big trauma response, in the sense of, if I'm so freaked out, I need to control so I can expect what's happening, versus being willing to know that whatever comes up, I can show up.
I would say it's a trauma response. I think also it's probably, you know, we've sort of transitioned from this like brave pioneer culture to this like, everything gets delivered by Amazon Prime and I never have to leave my house. Right? So this really cuddled, soft reality taken care of. Even if you look at the way parenting has transitioned, even from the 50s, it's like we've moved from like, get me the stick, to I have to listen to my kids' feelings and their feelings run the show. So I would say the pendulum, even societally, has swung, you know, big time. So I think it's a combination of a lot of factors. And regardless, here we are. Wanting to change our lives. Like, what are we going to do with ourselves?
But what is it about, like, that we have so much doubt? I mean, I guess because we are so coddled, if you will, that we have so much doubt in ourselves that we can't show up for the unknown. That it's like,
not
right?
That we
it's like,
can't.
Why would we have a fear?
It's not that we can't. It's that we won't. If you go to the base of everything, it's never that you can't. Because if it came down to it, when it comes to emergency situation, if you had an emergency situation and you had to show up for yourself, you just would. Because you just choose it. So it's never about can't. It's never about ability. It's about won't. And we won't because we might be judged. Because unknown. We might be judged. We might be judged. We might fail. It might not work. We don't actually know how to do this. We might actually look stupid. It's like, there's perceived risk that we aren't really willing to take until our hand is forced. You know, like, do you remember this with leaving your job? Like, what kind of tipped the scale for you?
Well, choices started to become slim, as in we were going to be enforced to be taking a lot of medical things that I didn't feel comfortable with. I was like, I'd like this all to be my choice. So that lit the fire under my ass.
So that forced your hand.
Yeah. Yeah, because otherwise I probably would have, I was creating, selling a little bit, but that was the squeeze where I was like, oh, I know where this is going. So
when it comes time to the squeeze, the doubt is no longer relevant, which means the doubt is not real.
Yeah.
It's not relevant at that point. You're like, well, even if I die.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not living like this.
I could have chosen it 3 years later, or earlier, but yeah.
But you didn't. So really, fear and doubt are the justifications for not choosing, and that's it.
Yeah.
But it's so crazy because there are these energetic sensations, right, that go with them, right? And it's so easy to get into our head with the doubt and overthink things. And so then it feels real. And I think that's the trap, is that it feels real.
Yeah.
So if it feels real, it must be real, is the conclusion that we go to. And then we've already learned via life and stuff that feeling is called this, and that because it's called this, then that means this. And now we have a problem to overcome. If the feeling itself isn't called that, it's just energy, and it's there to distract you from the choices you really have, then all of a sudden you're confronted with being in the creator seat of your life going, fuck, what's really true is I don't want to choose this.
Okay, so let's take this to the extreme of, I'm thinking like, there's been all this research done about the fear response and whatever, right? It's like your life is in danger.
Yeah.
And we go to, and I mean, I know you're talking about in a crisis, we just kind of handle things.
Yeah.
But it's like, what is it about that like huge surge of energy when there's like there is a life crisis in that moment? Like, what are we going to?
How much more energy do you require to handle that at that moment? If I look at my life, let's take some trauma, because I definitely experienced a lot of trauma. There was a moment, I'm going to give you a really terrible, awful example.
Love it.
There was a moment where my grandmother was old. She was in her 90s, and my mom, who was already proven herself to be pretty unstable, was caring for her. So my grandmother was staying in her home. Well, she was being abused. My grandmother was being abused by my mom. And I didn't really know the full extent of it until I went to visit. And this was, I don't know, this was 6, 7, 8 years back. And there was small carpets all over the floor that my grandmother couldn't really traverse. She was falling up the stairs and breaking her arm and not being taken to the doctor. My mom was forcing her to drink like 2-gallon jugs of water, because my mom's point of view is that she should drink more water. My grandmother's body didn't want that much water. So when I got there, there was a moment where my mom was just screaming at my grandmother to do the thing.
Yeah.
And all this energy like rushed into my body. And I was scared, terrified. I could have described it as terror, rage, fury, but what it was like all this energy of like, never again will this happen on my watch. And so all this energy, my cheeks flushed, and I just stood right there, and I was like, you will never treat her like that again, and I stopped the abuse. And that happened multiple times through my life, where there was just a moment where something was going to change, and it was going to change now. And what I required was that rush of energy to move me from staying in one place into a moment of fast forward motion. And you could use that same example for a kid walking out into traffic. I mean, there's an instantaneous rush of like you require that extra energy to move yourself from stasis into that sprint, essentially. Yeah. And so that's an extreme abuse example, but like when I look at the times when I have required that energy has shown up, and and then afterwards you're like trembling and you're like shaking. And then in a moment like that, I went into all kinds of like, felt bad and like scared that I do the wrong thing. I mean, I then went into my head, but in the moment what I had access to was energy to change something. And so what we do is we give ourselves too much rope to get into our head about stuff instead of using that energy in the moment to like go forward. And that's just something we've conditioned ourselves to do. But when our hand is forced, that's the thing about abuse situations, for example, is your hand is forced. You're like, are you going to stand there and watch this, or are you going to do something to change it? And my mom at that point like stopped talking to me, and she like disowned me, but she was absolutely incorrect in the way she was treating this person. Yeah. And I wasn't going to live with that. So you can really like look at the spectrum of situations in your life and kind of go, wow, when did this rush of energy occur, and what did I use it for? Yeah. And is that what's occurring now? And would I be willing to allow this to be as out of control as it feels? Because it's really this out of control energy that's like, holy fuck, I guess we're doing this. I'm jumping out of the plane. I'm like crossing this air bridge and bungee, you know, those things where you're like terrified, but you require that energy to move yourself into this choice that you aren't sure you can handle, but you know you can do.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. So where does then judgment come with that? Because I know, you know, talking about like your mom and the abuse and whatnot, and especially using kind of the wording incorrect versus wrong. But I know we talk about like not seeing things as wrong, but like, what is it about that like a surge of energy of knowing this isn't okay, so to speak, or
well, the surge of energy,
whatever.
Yeah. Well, no, the surge of energy for me was like, I don't care if this is right for you. I don't care if this is right in some world. Yeah. This is not happening for me. Yeah. You're now in my reality and no. So it wasn't about whether it was right or wrong from a societal point of view or right or wrong from an abuse point of view, or it was just like, this is not how people are treated in my world and you don't get to do this. So it took it out of any kind of right or wrong context and allowed me to have my reality, which is like, no. Yes to that, no to that, not because it's right or wrong, but because that's no for me.
Right, which you have like instant access to versus if you're going into the judgment about it, which is like kind of like right where our heads go after the fact, where it's like, was this right? Was this wrong? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, and it's like you wouldn't have access to that immediate impulse to act, to respond if you're going into your head about things.
Yeah. So ask me again about the judgment thing. So tell me more about that.
Well, I get that like when I'm talking to my members and whatnot about judgment and whatnot, then there is this kind of question of, well, what about abuse, or what about things that are so overtly wrong, like mistreating people or things like that? How do we like get out of judgment with that when it's like, but also know that it's not creating something greater for us?
What if you don't think about it and you just look at whether or not this is something you want to live with? Like, I know that we are addicted to being right.
Yeah, well, yeah.
We're addicted to being right.
Yeah.
And so if we can't be right, we almost don't want to choose. But if you couldn't be right and you couldn't be wrong, and the things occurring in front of you were just the things occurring in front of you, is that something you're willing to live with? You know, if I look at, I mean, it's again, I think it's easier to see this when you take it to its extremes, even historically. Like if you look at the period of time that I didn't live through this lifetime, you know, like Nazi Germany, or like big, like I would just watch Emancipation with Will Smith with slavery. And I was like, I'd have been on the side of history that was helping people escape. Like this is just not, and so that's easier to see that because, and so I'm just, I don't even know really where else to go with that. Yeah.
There's something around like it not creating greater, in the sense of like not coming from the point of it's like right, wrong, but it's like, what is this creating for us as humanity to function from that way or to hurt others? But I guess this is where then people take it to extremes, because if we're in the sense of like, if we're focused just on, okay, so for instance, I just did a post saying like, when you feel resentment, that's an indication that you need a boundary, not that the other person's behavior needs to change. Meaning that it's like, you could be functioning from this idea of like, I'm right, they should change. And it's like, well, great, who cares? If you are like, what has changed there? Unless you are the one setting the boundary, in the sense of still coming from this empowered place is like kind of where I'm seeing the underlying theme here of like empowered to choose. Versus I'm saying you need to change, you're wrong. It's like, well, that's not really going to do anything, because the other person gets to choose what they're going to choose.
Yeah, like my grandmother stayed there actually after that moment. She stayed there and she actually ended up dying there. And then my mom went to court for elder abuse. So it didn't change course of history, but it did change something in that moment.
Yeah.
And it was something that worked for me. So okay, so go again. We'll get there.
Okay, so now I'm looking.
We're unpacking it, and it's like it's heading in that really deep. I know that what I keep bringing up is like this deep, dark stuff, but I'm also curious about what that is. So keep going.
Well, okay, so now I'm looking at it from, okay, so let's look at three of you.
Okay.
And, you know, it's like your mom maybe thinks she was right in that
moment.
She does. Right? Yeah. Okay. And your grandma
thinks she was right.
Thinks she was right and stayed. regardless, right? And you're like, no, not okay. So it's like,
And I don't think
right?
I was right. I just think that I did what worked for me.
Yeah. You weren't functioning from right, this is right or wrong.
It doesn't matter what I was functioning from. I think that's what I'm trying to get to.
Okay.
Why are we making what we're functioning from relevant?
Yeah.
I can only function from this way if this way is right. I can only function from this way if this way is right. Only if it's creating greater can I choose it. Choose what works for you.
Well, it's like we'll never all agree on what's right or wrong.
That's a utopian, never.
Mm-hmm.
There's always going to be, everybody chooses what they choose because they choose it.
Yeah.
So you listening to this are living in the world, and you get to either be at the effect of everybody else's choices. So I could be at the effect of my mom's choice in that moment, or I could create a change in some way. Did I know what that change was going to create? Fuck no. And she was furious at me. She kicked us. We were helping. It was at the time I was married to my second husband. We were helping her paint her house. She threw us out of her house, didn't want our help anymore. I don't think we talked for at that time for 2 years. I didn't know what it was going to create. I just knew that I had to choose what worked for me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, for what reason are we making whether or not we're choosing from what's right or wrong or creating greater relevant? All of that's judgment. All of that comes from a judgment reality. What's beyond judgment reality?
Yeah.
Choice, just the choice for something that's going to work for you. Like, you finally chose into something that was going to work better for you than the job. The job was working fine for you until this point. And then it was like, that doesn't work for me anymore. For what is going to work for me better. Did you know how it was going to work out?
No.
You had no idea how it was going to work out. You had no idea what was going to show up. You just knew, not this. Mm-hmm. Okay, this is the next thing that I see. And that's really life. That's really living, right?
Well, there was no how, in the sense, because when people ask, well, how did you, and it's just like, well, I just chose it because you're exactly right. I didn't know what was going to show up. And there was just some deep knowing that it was going to be okay. I didn't know how, and so I want to say partially trust. I mean, also trust in me that, okay, I can, whatever shows up, I got this. I'll figure
But was that even a thinking thing?
No, because it was just this the deep knowing part was just,
That's how fast it is.
Yeah.
So everything else is entertainment.
I am unsubscribing.
Listen, I'm finding the bad cop in these conversations, because here's why. Because the things that I'm saying to you guys out loud have been the things that have set me the most free. I am not just like this chick on a soapbox saying unpopular shit because I think that's fun. I just know that it's unpopular because I hear what a lot of people are, what we end up swimming in. I hear it all. I see it,
Yeah.
And I've swam there myself, but it never set me free. And so I'm a huge advocate for freedom. And sometimes that means that to have freedom goes beyond right and wrong. As long as you're in the right and wrong reality, you have no freedom. You have to judge what you're doing in some way. You have to either judge it by, does this create greater or not create greater? That can be awareness, but most of the time we use that as judgment.
Yeah.
Is this right or is this wrong? Is this a good or is this a bad? Am I afraid or am I not afraid? And how do I know what I know and not know what I know? And what about this? We have to keep ourselves in that world of judgment. Beyond the world of judgment is freedom. You can just choose. And you can choose the things that work for you if you want, or you can choose the things that don't work for you if you want. And you can choose to get more information, because that's what choice is. It just gives you information. That's the world of freedom. And so for me, I'm a proponent of a world of freedom.
Yeah.
So, I wonder where we can go with this conversation that would, maybe that's the thing to ask yourself is do you want that?
Well, okay. So I was listening to Abraham Hicks, and they were saying, you are so free, you can choose bondage. And
right, I was like, exactly. I love that so bad. Yes.
Because I'm more addicted to that. It's like, I'd rather be in my safe jail cell than be free falling in choice.
Right. And so I've done resentment. I know what's at the bottom of resentment. When I'm resentful, there is something I'm unwilling to choose. So I have to make what's happening your fault, because I don't want to look at that I'm unwilling to choose. I have to make, And I'm so smart. I can so easily make it your fault that you're just going to believe it's your fault. And nobody's looking at me. And what's really true is that I don't want to choose anything. And you're bad. I've done it so much.
Yeah.
But then when I finally get my head out of my ass and I look at it, I'm like,
yeah.
Okay, I'm an asshole.
Afraid of afraid.
I'm an asshole that's been unwilling to choose. And really at the very, very bottom of it, it's usually this really deep judgment of me, but
yeah. It's so well ingrained for us to function from that space of judgment that it's just, it feels, it's like unreal for me to function differently.
But it is unreal. It doesn't exist. It's not. It's actually a non-reality. This choosing as freedom thing that all of access consciousness invites you to constantly is a non-reality for most people. It isn't real. It doesn't feel real. It's like it doesn't feel like anything, which can actually be the reason we hang on to the feelings, because it's like, well, at least this feels like something. I know what fear is, and I know what doubt is. I can get all bothered about that and get all involved in that. And, if freedom doesn't feel like anything, freedom is just choice all the time.
It's just like, got awareness how I've been doing that in business too. Let me make this really hard because
I haven't done that. I've never done that. I'm perfect every way.
I have all the problems to solve, and it's fine.
So, I mean, God. Did we address the
I know.
thing?
Okay, so roping this back to the beginning, how do people know the difference between fear, like they're going into right wrong fear, versus just the awareness is like a thud? The awareness doesn't seem to have a lot of possibility to it. Like the intuition is saying, nah.
Well, I think what's fair to say, you always know. You just always know when it's a no.
Tell me, how do I know? Do I know?
Okay.
Is it a yes?
Well, you just know. You just know. Like if it's not a yes, it's a no.
Yeah. If you're not excited, that's when people say if it's not a hell yes, then it's a no. Like
it's
if you're
really,
not
but it is really,
about it.
Yeah. And I would even, for me, I'd pull out the excitement, because there are things that are yeses that I don't feel excited about, but it's just, I just know. It's so I don't know if I'd even throw that in there personally, but if it's not a yes, it's a no. And that's the thing, like even when he and I are choosing stuff, even where to eat, I'm like, I start pinging things. I'm like, hey, you want this? And he'll be like, oh, I could. I'm like, that's a no. Just the moment he goes into just even needing to think about it, that's a no. So that's how you know. You just know.
It's like when we were looking at the schedule and you're like, okay, how about Thursday to do, these recordings and whatnot? And I was like, let me see.
You went into your calendar. You were like thinking about it. You're trying to make it work. I'm like, that's a no.
I want to make it work. I will figure this out. I'm the good girl that makes it work. And exactly.
So I had to kind of I have to teach a lot of people that look, no, I'm pinging. I don't need you to make this idea work. I actually don't want you to make this work. I want what work. I don't want you to make this work. I want what works.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for that thing that goes, yes.
Ease.
Yeah. So you just know. So if you go into any thinking, that's a no. Here's your sign. Here's your sign.
The end. Yeah, and that's why there is no 1, 2, 3 step. It's just like instant knowing.
It's teaching yourself knowing.
Yeah.
It's teaching yourself what your signs of knowing are. It's really more that. And it's so organic. And so when I was first introduced to this, it was the sense of light and heavy, but I had to really take I don't know, I had to expand the conversation to if it's not a yes, it's a no, and sort of thing. So I would play with small shit, like food, and just have stuff in front of me. And sometimes I would even let my body tell me, you were talking about letting your body show you things, if my body leaned towards it, I knew that was a yes. And if it was I knew that was a no. So I would play with it in that way. But I would also play with tasting things and going, oh, that kind of tastes like cardboard. That's
I know.
No. So I had to teach myself, what are my yeses and nos? What sense, how does my body communicate yeses and nos? And how does my being, what's the sensation of yeses and nos, right? That's a perceiving and receiving thing. That's the extra sensory thing, but it takes no time to know.
Yeah.
So the moment it takes time, you're into thinking. That's not knowing.
It's been so overridden by us, like in all the programming or what we've decided. If we focus so much attention to let me get the right food choice versus like, what is my body really saying? Then it's like, we're not even hearing. And that's what you're saying in the sense of like, it takes some training to tune in.
It does. And then I guess if we just like round this out with like the fear thing. So how do you know when you look at a choice and you're, that energy? Yeah. I kind of look at those choices a little bit more because I'm like, that's probably something I need to look at.
Lean into.
So that's a different thing where I got to go, okay, fuck, this is something.
Mm-hmm.
I choosing to go to Pilates here in Colombia, which is all in Spanish, in a gym where there's like these hot ass Latin models. Like you've never seen girls like this in your life. They're everywhere. And of course I'm walking in with Andres and I'm like, okay, my whole life might fall apart in this moment. Like, I had to choose it regardless. And so I do walk in there and I literally sweat, kind of not just because I'm working out, but I'm sweating. I'm like, I'm really uncomfortable, but I'm starting to get more comfortable. I'm starting to feel more confident. I'm starting to have more self-allowance for everything I am and, get how he functions. It's changing. Yeah. But it wasn't comfortable. It was not very comfortable.
And that's the thing is like also us being willing to choose despite discomfort.
The choices that make you really uncomfortable are probably the ones to go, okay, is my life greater? Yes. Okay, good. Probably lean in. Sweat through the whole thing. It's more to you.
So if you're really uncomfortable,
congratulations.
Cheers.
You're living. Yeah.
Well, and this is why I got like Wim Hof, besides all the benefits of doing like the ice baths and whatnot, but really, truly it's like training yourself to know that, okay, I can tolerate extreme discomfort, command my breathing and choose in that moment.
Yeah.
So
welcome to Getting Stronger, everybody. Yeah. How does it get better than this?
Not going to be comfortable.
Bye.